So there was no front. Go ahead.
Yeah, coming off of that a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm somebody who, in general, likes to trust in the free market and smaller government. The question I've been having over the last few weeks is that it seems to me that the doctor-patient relationship is perhaps a little different than, say, client-attorney relationship. And the biggest thing, well, I mean, first of all, there aren't many professions that, you say take your pants off and people do it. I think the better example is that you've been talking about car mechanics. A car mechanic isn't allowed to go to the site of a car accident and say, well, this fender is broken. And even if the even if the driver of the car isn't there to make the repair, and then when the driver gets there, say, this is the repair I made. Whereas if somebody comes into the hospital unconscious, having been in a motor vehicle accident, the doctor is allowed to perform procedures without getting informed consent. So is that a valid distinction? And if so, does that distinction play into the idea of healthcare as a right or not?
Yeah, I think it plays into it. First off, what would it mean to say that if I get in a car accident alone, I'm knocked unconscious, and then suddenly I have a right to health care? A doctor would be provided to requirement, and we'd be right back to the situation we are, which is that I would be rushed to the emergency room. Doctors would do what was necessary to keep me alive until some consent was possible, either from me or from a family member. So in that sense, that bolsters, I think, my argument that I need doctors out there who are smart, who are thinking, and are able to make best decisions as they see it. I think that bolsters the argument for freedom and liberty. What do I want the doctor to do on the scene? To reach into to look at me and make a decision to keep me alive? Or to pull up this electronic federal registry and figure out which treatments are allowed right now in order to avoid himself from being sued? I think it bolsters the need for freedom. And I also think, too, it bolsters the need. Let me confront another aspect of the question, which is a serious one and a good one. What about insurance companies that deny treatment? Well, I think the way that would properly be handled under a proper reform is that contracts would be enforced by the government. So if I signed a contract with an insurance company for health care, let's say for 10 years, and these are the terms of the contract, they would be required to fulfill that contract. That's what government mediating contracts and fulfilling its proper role by using force to uphold voluntary agreements would mean. In that sense, I'm not any more pro-big business or pro the medical profession even than I am pro-individual rights for everybody. Government should be enforcing contracts. And as soon as the government comes along and says insurance companies are required to have a contract with certain language in it, then the government is no longer enforcing contracts, it's dictating contracts, which means it's destroying freedom. There's a really good short op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today about somebody in New York who wants to buy medical insurance to cover only hospitalization. That's what he wants. It costs him $2,000 a year. To take that coverage and increase it to all medical coverage would have cost him $13,000 a year. So he says, I pay the $2,000 a year for hospitalization only coverage, and I put the other 11 grand in the bank to cover myself for routine, and it goes up to a lot of routine doctor visits, right? And you get a lot of flu shots for that. And that's what he wants the freedom to do. Under the Reform Act, that is now illegal, because all insurances must meet a certain actuarial value of over 70%, which makes catastrophic health insurance and hospitalization-only health insurance illegal. And so, again, I digress. Going back to the accident scene, yeah, I need the doctor. And I'm unconscious. I don't even know I need him. I need doctors who can think, who have and are able to practice. So I think it's bolstering there. But right here. I'm not trying to avoid much time we have.
Yeah, I mean, there have been a couple meta-analyses that have shown that doctors who follow guidelines tend to have better patient outcomes. And if these sort of doctor-produced guidelines were adopted by bureaucrats, would you endorse that?
No, because they're done by force. Let me think. Let's consider, for example, where would the AMA fit in all of this? If we had an actual, this kind of system of health, this kind of health care in the United States. I hate to even say system, because it wouldn't be a system, it would just be health care. The AMA would become a body who would issue certain guidelines for its members. To be a member of the AMA, you would have to meet certain standards, certain requirements, or you would not be allowed to display the AMA sticker. In other words, instead of becoming a government lobbying group for doctors. It would become a group that actually issues standards for its doctors. So one thing patients would evaluate is when you walk in, you'd say, are you a member of the AMA? And if the doctor said yes, and he's not, that's fraud. And the government should come down on him like a ton of bricks. But if he says he is, then that means he's going by the guidelines of the AMA, and the AMA would become more of a self-enforcement body. But all that self-enforcement is actually passing away as government reform is being used instead. Do I have time for one more? Okay, go. Been patient.
Thank you. As you mentioned, like one of the smallest voices, or possibly the smallest voice in all of this is the doctors. And even some of the organizations like the AMA, when they do put out statements, it's not representative of what people are actually understand. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are on, this kind of goes back to the Henry philosophy that basically in this day and age, like if you're going into the health profession in any way, and you have any desire to make money, and your motivations aren't purely altruistic, then you're in it for the wrong reason, and you should be punished for that. And I was wondering if maybe some of these stances are being taken because doctors and those organizations are scared to come out and say, look, we want our rights, because there would be such a huge backlash by people saying, well, you're bad people because you should be out doing this for altruistic reasons. You shouldn't be so selfish and so greedy. You should just want to do this to help people.
I think that
the consensus that you've...
I think that the overall, I'm going to go because we got like 1 minute. Your overall point is absolutely right on. Why is it that profits are so much derided? Because they're self-interested, because somebody is making the profit. Therefore, it is seen as immoral from the opposite point of view. Do you think that Walmart's great profits are causing its prices to rise? Or is Walmart's economies of scale and its ability to be profitable causing prices to fall? Do you think that Microsoft's great profits are causing computer prices to rise? The places you see the greatest profits in industry, when they're not regulated, are usually the places where you see the most prices falling. Microsoft was taken to court for giving a product away in antitrust. And so I think the idea that profit is somehow evil is very important to all of this. I want my insurance company to be profitable. Insurance profits run between 5 and 6%. Just now you tell me if deleting that would even do anything to healthcare prices anyway. I want my insurance company to be profitable. Why? Because that's their financial strength.